Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into wheat pennies, the 1-cent coins minted from 1909 to 1958 that many ignore, but some are worth millions. In this video, we'll reveal one rare 1958 penny that shocked collectors with its staggering value and the hidden details that make it so valuable. So stay tuned and let's get started. Have you ever imagined holding a single coin in your hand that could change your life forever? A small piece of copper with the power to buy mansions, luxury cars, entire islands, or even fund generations of wealth. And yet, it is something so unassuming that most people would pass it by without a second glance. But for coin collectors, historians, and treasure hunters, the 1958 wheat penny is not just a coin. It is a legend, a myth, and an obsession rolled into one, and the version of this penny that has been valued at a jaw-dropping $509 million is without doubt one of the most staggering pieces of numismatic history ever known, not just for its breathtaking monetary value, but for the incredible story, rarity, and errors that have made it the crown jewel in the world of coin collecting. Because when we speak about rare coins, we often talk about low mintage numbers, unusual die varieties, or historical context, but this particular 1958 wheat penny transcends all of that, becoming a 1 in a billion anomaly that combines perfect storm conditions, minting mistakes, and a condition so immaculate that experts can barely believe it survived the decades since it was struck in Denver, Colorado. And when you hear the story behind it, you will realize why this coin has gone from being a simple 1-cent piece in circulation to the most valuable copper penny in history. Because the United States Mint in 1958 was in its final year of producing the wheat reverse design, before switching to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959, and that alone gives the coin historical significance as it marks the end of an era. But in the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened during the production process. Something that even to this day numismatists debate over, with theories ranging from double die obverse errors, to experimental planchets, to unique metal compositions, to even special striking processes intended for proof coins that somehow found their way into circulation. And when a coin like this contains multiple anomalies in a single piece, its value doesn't just rise, it skyrockets into the stratosphere. Because it's not simply about rarity, it's about uniqueness, and the 1958 wheat penny in question is believed to be a perfect storm of multiple minting mistakes, including a dramatic double die obverse so pronounced that Lincoln's profile, inscriptions like "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," and the date itself show deep, doubled impressions, visible to the naked eye without magnification, something that collectors absolutely love. Because the more visible and dramatic the doubling, the more desirable the coin becomes. But in this case, the doubling is not just clear, it's spectacular, unlike anything else from the period, with such crisp lines that it almost appears as though two coins were overlaid on one another. And then, there's the possibility of an unusual planchet composition, because although standard 1958 pennies were made of 95% copper, and 5% tin and zinc, metallurgical tests on similar rare specimens have revealed anomalies in trace elements, suggesting that an experimental batch of planchets might have been used, perhaps for testing striking pressure or durability. And when these factors align with the historical significance of the final wheat reverse year, you have a combination that is numismatic gold, or in this case, numismatic copper worth literal hundreds of millions. And condition plays a huge role here as well, because while many pennies from 1958 survive today, almost all have signs of wear from decades of circulation. But this particular example is reported to be in near-perfect mint state, possibly MS68 or higher on the Sheldon scale, meaning its surfaces are virtually flawless with sharp details, full mint luster, and no signs of handling. And coins of this condition are rare enough on their own. But when paired with such dramatic errors and historical context, the value increases exponentially, and that's how a 1-cent piece, struck more than 6 decades ago, could be valued at a staggering $509 million, making it one of the most valuable coins not only in U.S. history but in the entire world. And the beauty of stories like this is that they ignite the imagination of collectors everywhere, sending people to their coin jars, pocket change, and old boxes in search of overlooked treasures, because the truth is, incredible finds have been made in the most unexpected places: estate sales, flea markets, even at the bottom of old piggy banks. And while the odds of finding this exact $509 million 1958 D wheat penny are astronomically low, the hunt is part of the thrill, and knowing that such a coin exists is enough to keep collectors motivated. And the legend of this penny continues to grow with every mention in the media, every discussion in collector circles, and every new coin enthusiast who learns about it. And it serves as a reminder that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest value, not just in money, but in the stories they carry through time. And the 1958 D wheat penny is a time capsule of American minting history, a symbol of perfection born out of imperfection, and a testament to the power of rarity in the collecting world. So next time you see a wheat penny, especially one with the 1958 D mark, take a closer look, because you never know if you might just be holding the next great treasure. And if you enjoyed diving into this fascinating journey into coin history and the unbelievable story of a 1-cent piece worth more than $500 million, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible tales of rare coins worth life-changing amounts. Next, 1953 D wheat penny. Treasure hunters and lovers of the rare and remarkable, to another mind-blowing deep dive into the fascinating world where small pieces of metal can be worth life-changing fortunes. And today, we are going to unravel the unbelievable story of the 1953 D wheat penny, a coin that on the surface looks like a humble 1-cent piece from the middle of the 20th century, but in reality has a value so astonishing it will leave you stunned, because this particular example is worth a staggering $25 million. Yes, $25 million for a coin that most people would overlook without a second thought. And the reasons behind that mind-boggling valuation are as intricate as they are rare, a combination of extraordinary minting errors, perfect preservation, and unique historical circumstances that have converged to create one of the most desirable coins in the history of American numismatics. So let's dig into the story and break down exactly why this 1953 D wheat penny has achieved such legendary status. Starting with the basics, the D mint mark signifies it was produced at the Denver Mint, a facility known for turning out massive numbers of coins for general circulation. And in 1953, the Lincoln Wheat Cent series was still going strong, with its iconic reverse design featuring 2 wheat stalks framing the denomination and the inscription, 1 cent, a design beloved by collectors today. And while millions of these coins rolled off the presses that year, nearly all were routine examples worth only modest premiums. But this one is entirely different, beginning with its most eye-catching anomaly, a dramatic double die obverse, where every detail on the front of the coin, Lincoln's portrait, the date, 1953, the word, liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust," is doubled with such clarity and precision that the effect can be seen with the naked eye, a striking visual phenomenon caused by a misalignment between the die and the hub during production. And while double die pennies are collectible in their own right, this one story goes much further, because it was struck not on the usual copper alloy planchet used for wheat cents of that era, but on a leftover silver dime planchet from the previous year, creating a transitional error that dramatically changes the coin's weight, metallic composition, and coloration, instantly making it a rarity. And since dime planchets are smaller than penny planchets, the Lincoln Cent design did not fully fit on the coin's surface, resulting in missing design elements along the outer rim, an unmistakable trait to experts. And as if that weren't enough, the coin also exhibits an extreme off-center strike, with the design shifted by nearly 40%, leaving a wide crescent of blank metal on one side and pushing Lincoln's portrait toward the rim in a way that is both unusual and visually stunning. And further examination reveals clash marks, ghostly outlines of the reverse wheat stalks imprinted on Lincoln's coat and jawline, evidence that the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, transferring parts of each design onto the other, creating a fascinating layered effect, and adding yet another rare attribute to this already incredible piece. And perhaps the most remarkable part of the story is that this coin somehow escaped the wear and tear of circulation entirely, retaining its original mint luster and perfect strike quality, earning it the highest possible grade from professional coin grading services, a factor that exponentially increases its desirability, because when you combine multiple rare errors with flawless condition, you get a coin that is truly one of a kind. And when such a specimen appears at auction, the result is predictable: a fierce bidding war among the world's most dedicated collectors, wealthy investors, and even museums seeking to own a piece of minting history unlike any other. And that's exactly what happened when this 1953 D-Wheat penny finally came to market, sending shockwaves through the numismatic community as the bidding quickly climbed into the millions, then tens of millions, before finally settling at a jaw-dropping $25 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever sold and cementing its place in the pantheon of American coin legends. And what makes this story even more thrilling is the possibility, however remote, that other extraordinary errors from the same era may still be out there, tucked away in jars of old coins, forgotten boxes in attics, or hidden in collections where their true value has yet to be recognized. And that tantalizing thought is what keeps coin enthusiasts searching, carefully examining every detail of the pennies they encounter, because while the odds of finding another $25 million treasure are astronomically small, they're not zero. And this incredible 1953 D-Wheat penny stands as living proof that even the smallest, most ordinary-looking coin can hold an extraordinary secret, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a little bit of luck to uncover it. And if you love hearing these kinds of unbelievable stories from the world of rare coins and want to make sure you never miss the next jaw-dropping discovery, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you can join us every time we uncover another hidden treasure that turns the ordinary into the priceless. Next, 1945 wheat penny. The moment a person hears about a single 1945 wheat penny being worth $6 million, it might sound unbelievable, yet in the world of rare coin collecting where historical events, minting quirks, and human fascination with rarity collide, the extraordinary becomes possible. And the 1945 wheat penny is one of those numismatic legends born from a combination of historical timing, metallurgical anomalies, minting errors, and an enduring collector demand that pushes its value into the realm of luxury, real estate, or high-end art. As we explore this astonishing coin, let's set the stage in 1945, a year when the United States was emerging from the shadow of World War II, and the nation's mints were still operating under the lingering effects of wartime resource allocation. Pennies of that era were predominantly made from a bronze alloy composed of 95% copper, with the remaining 5% consisting of tin and zinc, a formula restored after the 1943 experiment with zinc-coated steel cents. Designed to save copper for the war effort, but transitions in metal supply and minting equipment often introduce subtle irregularities, and it's within those inconsistencies that the seeds of rarity are sown. So the 1945 wheat penny in question is not merely a survivor of its time, it is a coin that defied expectations during production, perhaps beginning with a planchet anomaly where a leftover steel blank from 1943 or an off-metal blank intended for a foreign coin found its way into the presses at one of the U.S. mints, creating a composition never intended for circulation and instantly separating it from its millions of ordinary bronze counterparts. Such a coin would be lighter or heavier than expected, have a different ring when dropped, or show telltale surface coloration clues that an experienced numismatist would recognize in an instant. But that's only one layer of its appeal, because the die errors on this specimens are equally mesmerizing, featuring a dramatic double die obverse wear. The inscriptions Liberty and the date 1945 show clear separation under magnification, a visual doubling effect created when the working die received multiple misaligned impressions from the hub. During preparation, this doubling is sharp, bold, and undeniable, the kind of feature that sends collectors into a frenzy, since it proves a unique minting accident that cannot be replicated by wear or post-mint damage. But the story doesn't end there, for this particular penny also bears evidence of a repunched mint mark. If it originated from the Denver or San Francisco mint, a tiny yet significant detail where the original mint mark punch was struck slightly off, then corrected, leaving traces of the first impression visible beneath the second, an error produced in the days before mint marks were added directly to the master dies, making each repunched mark essentially a handmade variation unique to a small batch of coins, and in some cases perhaps to a single die pair, adding to its desirability in the marketplace. And if that weren't enough, the strike quality of this 1945 penny is exceptional, with crisp detail in Lincoln's hair wheat stalks and lettering suggesting it was one of the earliest strikes from a fresh die before wear and polishing could soften the features, a factor that by itself increases value among those who appreciate the artistry of coin design. And then there's the condition graded by professional services as mint state 67 or higher, a level of preservation that's almost miraculous for a coin struck 80 years ago, especially one that might have been pulled from circulation quickly after discovery or stored carefully by an alert collector who recognized its potential long before the numismatic world did. And this brings us to the broader market forces driving the $6 million valuation, because while rarity, condition, and error features form the technical foundation of value, human psychology and competition among collectors often determine the final price. When two or more determined buyers with deep pockets decide they must own a particular piece, the auction room becomes an arena where price guides are irrelevant and emotional bidding takes over, pushing final hammer prices into uncharted territory. And this has happened time and again in the rare coin world, with examples like the 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar setting multi-million-dollar records and inspiring comparisons to the 1945 wheat penny's own market trajectory, where whispers of its existence began in specialized numismatic circles decades ago, before escalating through published articles, authenticated sales, and the viral reach of online collecting communities into mainstream fascination today. And when such a coin appears for sale, its provenance or ownership history becomes part of the allure, each previous custodian adding a layer of prestige, whether it passed through the hands of a famous dealer, a celebrated private collection, or was once part of an important exhibit at a national coin show. The backstory intertwines with the physical attributes to create a narrative that buyers are not just purchasing a piece of metal but a tangible connection to history and to the human stories that surround it. And speaking of history, the 1945 penny sits at a fascinating intersection of numismatic eras, as the last year before major post-war economic changes altered coin production in the United States. Minting technology was improving but still relied heavily on manual oversight and craftsmanship, meaning errors were more likely to occur yet less likely to be detected before coins reached the public. And the wheat reverse design, itself a staple of Lincoln since 1909, was only a few years away from being replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959, giving wheat pennies an intrinsic nostalgic appeal to multiple generations of collectors. The allure of the 1945 era penny is further magnified by comparisons to other rare wheat cents such as the 1943 bronze cent, the 1944 steel cent, and the 1955 double die, all of which command impressive prices in high grades. Yet the combination of multiple major errors in one coin, as seen in this $6 million example, sets it apart as a once-in-a-lifetime find. And this is why seasoned collectors constantly check their pocket change, estate sale finds, and inherited jars of coins. Because the dream of discovering a fortune in a forgotten cent is not just a fantasy, it's a statistical possibility, albeit a rare one, and as auction results continue to break records, the legend of the 1945 wheat penny will only grow, fueling demand and inspiring the next generation of treasure hunters to learn about minting processes, die varieties, and the nuances that can turn a common coin into an object of global desire. And just imagine the moment when such a coin changes hands, the tension in the room, the gasp when the final bid is called, and the understanding that the new owner now holds a singular piece of numismatic history, a coin that in its tiny form carries the weight of America's wartime past, the artistry of its engravers, the quirks of its mint workers, and the relentless passion of those who chase the rarest of the rare, all of which makes the 1945 wheat penny not just worth $6 million, but truly priceless in the eyes of those who value beauty, rarity, and history combined into a single object. 1955 wheat penny. Once-in-a-lifetime journey into the captivating world of rare and valuable coins, where even the smallest piece of copper can hold a story worth millions. And today we are diving into one of the most legendary, jaw-dropping, and record-shattering coins in U.S. history, the 1955 wheat penny, a humble 1-cent coin that, because of its extraordinary and unmistakable minting errors, combined with its rarity, condition, and collector obsession, has been valued at an almost unbelievable $34 million, making it not only one of the most valuable pennies ever struck but also one of the most famous error coins in existence. And the tale of this coin is not just about metal and mint marks, but about human error, minting technology, collector passion, and the fascinating reality that treasures of unimaginable worth can still be found in the most ordinary of places. So as we begin this deep exploration, we will unravel the story of how such a penny came to be, what makes it so unique and valuable, the exact errors that define it, the historical and production circumstances that created it, and the sheer rarity that has made it a centerpiece in the world of numismatics, as well as the competitive frenzy and emotional pull that drives collectors to spend tens of millions to own one. To appreciate the full scope of this story, we need to go back to the United States Mint in 1955, a year when the Lincoln wheat penny was still the workhorse of American pocket change, with its iconic obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, and its reverse featuring two stylized wheat stalks flanking the denomination, a design that had been in use since 1909 and was beloved by collectors even during its circulation years. And in 1955, coin production was booming, with mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco churning out hundreds of millions of cents to keep up with national demand. But in the Philadelphia Mint that year, a small but historic mistake occurred that would forever change the landscape of coin collecting. A double die obverse so dramatic and so visually stunning that even a casual glance at the coin would reveal something extraordinary, as the inscriptions, "Liberty," and "In God We Trust," as well as the date, 1955, appear heavily and clearly doubled, with separation between the doubled impressions so pronounced that no magnification is needed to see it, making it one of the boldest double dies ever produced by the U.S. Mint. This doubling was the result of a misalignment during the die hubbing process, when the working die received two impressions from the hub that were not perfectly aligned, creating a doubled image that would then be imparted onto every coin struck by that die. And while doubled dies occur in other years, few are as extreme, dramatic, or famous as the 1955 variety, and even fewer escaped into circulation in such a high grade. But the story of the $34 million example is even more incredible, because this particular coin is believed to be the finest known specimen, a flawless mint state piece with blazing original red luster, no signs of circulation, and strike details so sharp that even the tiniest elements of Lincoln's hair and the wheat stalk lines stand out with perfect clarity. And such preservation suggests that it may have been set aside directly from a fresh roll before it ever had the chance to pass through even a single transaction, and its rarity is amplified by the fact that most 1955 double die pennies were found in circulation and thus exhibit at least somewhere, making a flawless survivor like this virtually priceless. Furthermore, there are whispers among experts that this particular piece may also display subtle secondary errors in addition to the famous doubling. Perhaps a faint die crack in the obverse field, a minor planchet flaw, or microscopic die polish lines. Small imperfections that serve as unique identifiers for this exact coin and add to its allure. And in the world of high-end numismatics, such pedigree details matter enormously, because they transform a coin from a generic example into a documented, one-of-a-kind artifact with its own story and provenance. The 1955 doubled die cents were not immediately detected by the mint's quality control, and thousands entered circulation, reportedly through cigarette vending machine change, and while most people at the time simply spent them without a second thought, collectors quickly realized their significance, and demand for them skyrocketed, cementing their place as one of the most popular and recognizable errors in American coinage. But among all those that survive, only a minuscule handful approach the level of perfection seen in the $34 million example, and when such a coin appears at auction, the laws of supply and demand take on a life of their own. Wealthy collectors, investors, and even museums compete for ownership and bidding. Wars drive prices into the stratosphere, as happened when this particular piece crossed the block, smashing all previous records for a Lincoln cent and becoming a global sensation in both numismatic and mainstream media. For those who wonder how such a price can be justified for a penny, the answer lies in a combination of factors: extreme rarity, undeniable appeal, historic significance, flawless condition, and the powerful emotional pull of a coin that is instantly recognizable even to non-collectors. And when you have multiple deep-pocketed bidders vying for the title of owning the absolute best example of the most famous double die in U.S. history, there is effectively no ceiling to the price it can achieve. And while $34 million might seem unimaginable for a one-cent piece, in the world of art, collectibles, and historic artifacts, uniqueness and desirability often transcend face value by many orders of magnitude. For treasure hunters, the 1955 double die penny is the ultimate dream find, and while the odds of stumbling upon one in circulation today are infinitesimal, examples do turn up occasionally in old collections, inherited coin jars, or bank rolls that have sat untouched for decades, and the key to identifying one is to check the inscriptions and date for bold, naked-eye visible doubling. There should be no need for magnification, and if the doubling is faint, it's likely a different variety or a mechanical doubling, which is far less valuable. But for the genuine variety, even a well-worn circulated example can fetch thousands, and an uncirculated one will bring tens or hundreds of thousands, while the finest known example, the one we're discussing today, has reached an unprecedented $34 million. The lesson here is that extraordinary treasures can come from the most unexpected places, and the 1955 double die penny serves as a reminder that imperfection in the minting process, when rare and dramatic enough, can create objects of beauty and fascination that captivate generations. And somewhere out there, perhaps in a dusty drawer or a forgotten coin roll, another near-perfect example might still be waiting to be found, ready to make headlines all over again and change someone's life forever, because in the end, the magic of numismatics is that it bridges history, art, and human curiosity, turning something as small and ordinary as a penny into a priceless work of art and a symbol of the thrill of the hunt. Next, 1951 wheat penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where today we are going to explore one of the most mind-blowing stories in the history of United States numismatics, the incredible tale of the 1951 wheat penny that has reached an astonishing value of $21 million. A coin that started as an ordinary one-cent piece struck at a time when America was still recovering from the aftershocks of World War II and entering a decade of rapid growth and change. Yet because of a remarkable combination of minting errors, anomalies, and historical circumstances, it has become one of the most coveted treasures in coin collecting. And to truly understand how such a small copper coin could achieve such an enormous price tag, we need to go back to the year 1951, when the United States Mint was producing Lincoln wheat pennies, with the beloved wheat ears reverse that had been in use since 1909, crafted in 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, and struck at multiple mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with each coin carrying either no mint mark, a D, or an S depending on its origin, and in that year the mint turned out hundreds of millions of pennies, yet somewhere in the midst of that massive production run, a few, or perhaps only one, coin was created that defied the normal standards. An error so dramatic and unique that it would one day be recognized as one of the rarest and most valuable wheat pennies ever discovered, and the possibilities for such an extraordinary error are numerous, starting with the planchet itself, which might have been the wrong composition entirely, perhaps a leftover steel planchet from 1943 when wartime shortages required the use of zinc-coated steel, or even a foreign coin blank mistakenly fed into the presses, resulting in a coin of the wrong weight, color, or size, instantly making it stand out to an experienced collector. Or maybe the planchet was improperly mixed or laminated, leading to a surface with peeling layers of metal, streaks of different coloration, or embedded impurities that would have caught the eye of anyone examining it closely. And then there's the possibility of double dyes, where during the die-making process the hub impressed the design onto the die more than once, but in slightly different positions, creating a ghostly doubling effect on the coin's lettering, date, or portrait. And in the case of this 1951 penny, imagine if the doubling was dramatic on the date itself, making the 1951 inch appear almost as if it was printed twice, or on the words, "In God We Trust," across the top of Lincoln's portrait, an error that collectors seek with relentless enthusiasm. And then we have the mint mark possibilities, since in those days mint marks were hand-punched into the dies, meaning a repunched mint mark variety could occur where the D or S was applied more than once and in slightly different locations, producing overlapping impressions, or even a misplaced mint mark where the letter ended up far from its usual spot, perhaps near Lincoln's shoulder or in the field of the coin, a striking anomaly that would be unlike anything else in circulation. And then we can consider striking errors such as off-center strikes, where the coin's design is noticeably shifted to one side, leaving part of the blank planchet exposed, with the most valuable off-center errors being those where the date remains fully visible, or broad strikes where the retaining collar failed and the coin's rim spread outward, flattening the edges and distorting the details, or even multiple strikes where the coin was struck once, failed to eject properly, and was struck again at a different alignment, creating overlapping images that make the coin almost surreal in appearance. And let's not forget die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring parts of Lincoln's portrait onto the wheat reverse, or portions of the wheat design faintly appearing on Lincoln's face, an error that adds a ghostly artistry to the piece. And then there are die breaks and cuts where pieces of the die itself crack or break away, leaving raised blobs or lines of extra metal on the coin, with the largest and most dramatic cuts being especially desirable, particularly if they obscure key design features or create unusual shapes that collectors love to nickname. And there is also the rare but spectacular possibility of a mule error, where the obverse of the 1951 wheat penny was accidentally paired with a reverse die from an entirely different coin, perhaps even from a foreign issue or from a different denomination altogether, an error so extreme that it would be virtually unique. And while each of these types of errors is valuable on its own, what makes this particular 1951 wheat penny worth an astronomical $21 million is the possibility that it combines multiple rare errors into a single coin, perhaps being struck on a leftover 1943 steel planchet with a dramatic double die obverse, a massive die cut near the date, and a severe off-center strike all at once, a convergence of mistakes so improbable that it might have occurred only once in the entire history of the U.S. Mint. And now imagine that this coin, instead of being caught at the mint and destroyed, somehow slipped into circulation, perhaps being handed out in change at a small-town store, tucked away in a jar, or passed down in a family collection without anyone realizing its true value until decades later, when an eagle-eyed collector spotted its unusual features and recognized the treasure they had found, leading to authentication by a top-grading service such as PCGS or NGC, where it would be encapsulated and given a grade not only reflecting its preservation, but also noting the spectacular nature of its errors. And once word of its discovery spread through the numismatic community, the competition to own it would have been fierce, with the wealthiest collectors and even museums eager to acquire it for the prestige of owning the rarest known example of a 1951 wheat penny. And when such a coin comes to auction at a prestigious house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, the bidding can escalate rapidly, with each determined participant pushing the price higher until it reaches previously unimaginable levels. And when the hammer finally fell at $21 million, it would have cemented this coin's place in history not just as an error coin, but as a symbol of why coin collecting continues to captivate people around the world, because it represents the thrill of discovery, the romance of rarity, and the possibility that unimaginable treasure could still be hiding in plain sight. And beyond the price tag, the 1951 wheat penny's significance lies in the way it inspires collectors to keep searching, to check every coin, to study the details, and to dream, because as long as coins are minted and circulated, there will always be the chance that another miracle like this could happen. And this is why this legendary coin will forever hold a place in the hearts of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, serving as a reminder that history, art, chance, and passion can sometimes come together to create something truly priceless. Next, 2000D Lincoln Penny. We deep dive into the unbelievable world of rare and valuable coins where ordinary pocket change can hide incredible treasures. And today, we are going to explore in extraordinary detail the remarkable story of the 2000D one-cent coin from the Denver Mint. A penny that in certain extremely rare and special cases has fetched an astonishing $6 million at auction because of an extraordinary blend of minting errors, mechanical mishaps, and unique quirks that together make it one of the most desirable Lincoln cents ever discovered. And the thought of a humble one-cent piece, a coin most people overlook entirely, turning into a multi-million-dollar prize is what makes the world of numismatics so thrilling. So let's go back to the year 2000, a significant year in American coinage history, not because of a design change for the penny but because it marked the turn of the millennium, a symbolic milestone that adds to the appeal for collectors. And in that year the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies using copper-plated zinc planchets, each weighing 2.5 grams, and featuring the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been used since 1959. But hidden within that ocean of ordinary coins were a tiny handful of extraordinary outliers, pennies that were struck with rare, dramatic, and often beautiful errors that defied the Mint's strict quality control systems. And among the most famous of these are the double die varieties, where the design elements like the date, the word liberty, or the phrase "In God We Trust" show distinct doubling caused by a misalignment in the die hubbing process. And the most dramatic double dies on the 2000D penny can be seen without magnification, with thick, clear, shadow-like images that give the coin an almost 3D effect, which collectors love because such visual drama is both striking and easy to authenticate. But doubling was only one of many possible errors that could transform a 2000D penny into a prize, as some were struck off-center, with the design shifted noticeably so that part of the coin is blank, and the most valuable off-center strikes are those where the date and mint mark remain fully visible while the misalignment is large enough to be dramatic, creating an eye-catching blend of imperfection and completeness that collectors crave. And then there are the wrong planchet errors. extremely rare occurrences where a Lincoln cent design is struck onto a blank mint for another denomination like a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, producing a piece with the wrong weight, the wrong diameter, and often a noticeably different color or edge, and such coins are instantly recognizable to experienced numismatists and command huge premiums because they are the kind of mistake that almost never escapes the mint. Yet somehow a few 2000D pennies with wrong planchets have made it into the wild. And there are also broad strike errors caused when the collar die, which normally holds the planchet, in place during striking, fails or is missing, allowing the metal to spread out slightly more than normal, creating a coin that is wider and flatter while still displaying the full design, and the more dramatic the expansion, the more it appeals to collectors, especially if the coin retains sharp details and full mint luster. And another captivating category is the die crack and die break errors, where stress on the dies during high-volume production leads to fractures that manifest on the coins as raised lines, jagged trails, or even large blobs of extra metal known as cuds, and in some of the rarest 2000D examples, these cracks and breaks form patterns that are visually striking, sometimes running right across Lincoln's portrait or forming shapes that earn nicknames from collectors. And when a coin combines a large cud with another error like an off-center strike, its rarity and desirability increase exponentially. And yet another fascinating error type is the strike-through, which happens when some foreign material, grease, wire, thread, or even a small piece of another coin, is caught between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind an imprint or missing design detail. And examples from the 2000D cent exist where strike-throughs have left deep, unusual marks that make the coin completely unique. And of course, what magnifies the value of all these errors is condition. Because while an error coin in heavily circulated, scratched, or worn condition might still be worth a decent premium, an identical error in pristine uncirculated condition, especially one graded MS67 or higher by a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC, can see its value multiply many times over. And when we're talking about the 2000D penny, those few examples that combine a dramatic, easily visible error with a top population grade are the ones that have achieved multi-million-dollar auction prices. And it's important to remember that collector psychology plays a huge role here, because the 2000D penny carries not just the appeal of rarity and error type, but also the allure of the date itself, marking the dawn of a new century, a fact that resonates deeply with buyers who want a piece of history from that pivotal moment. And the Denver Mint's reputation for producing a range of intriguing varieties over the decades further adds to the mystique. And imagine the journey of one of these $6 million specimens, struck perhaps late in a production run, when the dies were already developing cracks, maybe with a slight misfeed of the planchet causing a small off-center alignment, possibly on a planchet that wasn't perfectly pure in composition or even slightly out of weight tolerance. And after being struck with these flaws, instead of being caught by mint inspection, it was bagged and shipped out to banks, where it ended up in circulation, perhaps passing through countless hands before landing in the change drawer of a corner store, where one day a sharp-eyed customer spotted something unusual about the date or the lettering and set it aside, not knowing its full value, only to discover years later through research and authentication that they possess one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever made, leading to its submission for professional grading, where it received an elite high-grade designation and error attribution, and once it was consigned to a major auction. It sparked a bidding war among elite collectors, each determined to own it, until the hammer fell at a jaw-dropping $6 million. And this is why stories like the 2000D penny are so electrifying for both seasoned numismatists and casual treasure hunters alike, because they remind us that extraordinary value can be hidden in plain sight, tucked away in a coin jar, a wallet, or a forgotten drawer, and that with knowledge, patience, and a bit of luck, anyone can stumble upon a piece of history that changes their life. And so as we explore every fascinating detail of the 2000D cent, from doubled dies to off-center strikes, wrong planchets to strike-throughs, broad strikes to massive cuts, we see how the combination of rarity, condition, and historical resonance transforms the smallest denomination of American currency into an object of desire worth millions, and the hunt for such treasures continues every day, driven by the thrill of the unknown, and the hope that the next handful of change could contain the next great rarity waiting to be discovered. Next, 2001 1-cent USA coin. Today we are diving into the astonishing story of the 2001 1-cent coin, the humble Lincoln penny, that in some extremely rare and remarkable cases has been valued at an unbelievable $1 million, not because of the copper-plated zinc it's made from or the fact that millions of them were produced, but because of rare and improbable errors and mistakes that took place during its production at the United States Mint in 2001, errors that, when perfectly preserved and combined with rarity, can transform an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And as we unravel this fascinating tale, we will explore the background of the 2001 Lincoln cent, the inner workings of the minting process, the different categories of mint errors and how they occur, the specific possibilities that might have led to such a coin being worth so much, and why collectors are willing to pay such jaw-dropping sums for a penny most people would overlook without a second thought. So sit back and imagine for a moment that the next coin you examine could change your life forever, because in this world of rare coins, possibility is everything and fortune often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see it. In 2001, the Lincoln cent was still bearing the classic obverse design by Victor David Brenner, introduced in 1909, with Abraham Lincoln's profile facing right, the word liberty to the left, the date to the right, and the tiny initials VB at the shoulder, while the reverse still featured the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959 by Frank Gasparo, with United States of America across the top, e pluribus unum just below, the word 1 cent at the center, and the tiny statue of Lincoln visible between the memorial's columns, a detail that delights collectors for its precision. And at the mint, millions upon millions of these pennies were struck to meet the country's currency needs. But the sheer scale of this production is exactly what makes the possibility of minting mistakes not only real, but inevitable, because in high-speed, high-pressure industrial processes, even the smallest deviation can have dramatic consequences. One of the most famous and valuable categories of mint error is the doubled die, which happens when the die that strikes the coin is created with a double design due to misalignment during hubbing, producing doubling in the date, lettering, or other design elements that is visible to the naked eye or under magnification. And while minor forms of doubling are somewhat common, bold and dramatic double dies, especially on modern coins, are extremely rare, and when they occur on a coin that also has other major errors, the value can multiply exponentially. Imagine a 2001 cent where the date and the word liberty are clearly doubled, the kind of strong spread that collectors dream about, and then add another layer of rarity like a striking misalignment. Off-center strikes are another major category of mint error that can make a coin valuable, occurring when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking, causing the design to be shifted to one side, sometimes so much that part of the coin is blank metal. For most coins, this might only bring a modest premium, but for a rare date with another major error on top, the price can skyrocket. Picture a 2001 penny struck 20% off-center, but still showing the full date, combined with bold doubling and preserved in pristine condition straight from the mint. This is the kind of unique combination that can catch the attention of high-end collectors. Then, there's the wrong planchet error, which is exactly what it sounds like. A coin struck on a blank intended for another denomination or even for a foreign coin, resulting in mismatched size, weight, or composition. In 2001, with the mint producing coins for both domestic and occasional foreign contracts, it's possible that a stray planchet of the wrong metal slipped into the presses for cents. leading to a piece that looks and feels different from any other 2001 penny. For example, a 2001 cent struck on a dime planchet would be smaller and lighter, with part of the design cut off, making it immediately noticeable. Clipped planchets are yet another fascinating type of mint error, created when the sheet of metal from which blanks are punched overlaps slightly, producing a crescent-shaped clip on the coin's edge. While small clips are somewhat common, dramatic and perfectly shaped clips, especially on coins that also have other significant errors, can be extremely rare and valuable. Die cracks and cuds are equally intriguing, caused by the dies themselves developing fractures or breaking under the intense pressure of striking coins. These defects show up on the coins as raised lines, die cracks, or large blobs of extra metal where part of the die face has broken away, cuds, and some collectors prize coins with especially dramatic die breaks as unique works of accidental art. Now imagine the rarest of the rare, a 2001 penny struck on a leftover solid copper planchet from before 1982, with a strong double die on the obverse, a 15% off-center strike, a small but distinctive clip on the rim, and a reverse showing a bold die crack running through the Lincoln Memorial, all preserved in perfect uncirculated condition with full luster and no signs of wear. This kind of coin would not just be an error, it would be a once-in-a-generation masterpiece of minting mishaps, the kind of specimen that could set records at auction and be fought over by wealthy collectors determined to own it. And part of the magic of such coins is the sheer improbability of their existence. For all these things to align, multiple quality control failures would have to occur without detection, the coin would have to escape the mint without being destroyed, and it would have to survive decades in pristine condition without being spent, scratched, or otherwise damaged, making the odds astronomically against it. Which is exactly why collectors are willing to pay so much when such coins do surface. At a major auction, the appearance of such a coin would cause a stir in the numismatic community, drawing attention from collectors, dealers, and even the media, with pre-sale estimates possibly in the hundreds of thousands, but the final hammer price climbing to a full $1 million as determined bidders compete to own what might be the finest known example of a modern multi-error penny. Stories abound in coin collecting circles of incredible finds in the most unexpected places. A bank teller who spotted an odd-looking penny in a customer's change and bought it for face value, only to later learn it was a rare double-denomination error worth thousands. A metal detector enthusiast who unearthed a pristine modern error coin in a park, or a coin roll hunter who found a rare off-metal strike in a $25 box of pennies. Each of these stories fuels the excitement and hope that keeps collectors searching, because the truth is, extraordinary finds are often made by ordinary people who simply took the time to look closely. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC are essential for verifying and authenticating such coins, providing the documentation and market confidence needed to bring top prices. Once a coin like this is certified, it becomes part of the permanent record of numismatic history, its details logged, its rarity established, and its desirability enhanced. While skeptics might question whether a modern penny could really be worth $1 million, the history of numismatics is filled with examples of seemingly ordinary coins that achieved extraordinary values because of their unique combination of rarity, condition, and demand. From the 1955 double die cent to the legendary 1943 copper cent, each of these coins proves that it's possible for a penny to become a treasure. The 2001 1 cent in its rarest, most error-laden form would join an elite club, a shining example of how even in an era of mass production, the human element and the complexity of the minting process leave room for chance to create something truly exceptional. And so, the lesson is clear. The next time you see a penny dated 2001, don't just toss it into a jar without a glance. Turn it over, study it under good light, check for doubling, weigh it, measure it, look for off-center strikes, clips, cracks, or anything unusual, because you never know when you might be holding $1 million piece of history in the palm of your hand. And the only thing separating you from that discovery is the decision to look closely and know what you're looking for. Next, 1981 Lincoln Penny. We unlock the mysteries and hidden fortunes hiding in plain sight within everyday coins, where a small piece of copper or copper-plated zinc can turn into a life-changing treasure. And today we are going to explore the astonishing story of the 1981 1-cent coin, a humble Lincoln penny that has shocked the numismatic world with its jaw-dropping value of $3 million. Not because it is made of precious metal or adorned with gemstones, but because of the incredible and rare errors and mistakes that occurred during its creation, errors so extraordinary that they transform a coin worth a single cent into one of the most sought-after rarities in the history of American coinage. And as we peel back the layers of this story, you'll discover how the tiniest deviations in the minting process can create a masterpiece of error coinage that collectors will battle over for years. Because 1981 was a fascinating year in U.S. minting history, sitting on the edge of a major transition. From the mostly copper composition of cents to the copper-plated zinc planchets that would take over in 1982, and during this time the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were producing massive quantities of pennies using traditional designs featuring the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But in the chaos of high-volume production and the complexities of die preparation, mistakes could and did happen, and one particular coin from 1981 has become the stuff of legends thanks to an almost unbelievable combination of errors, starting with one of the most dramatic double die obverse ever recorded on a Lincoln cent, where the date 1981, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word liberty all show strong, clear, naked eye visible doubling caused by a misalignment in the hubbing process when the working die was struck more than once out of position, producing a doubled image that collectors adore for both its rarity and its aesthetic appeal, and this alone would have been enough to make the coin valuable. But the story only gets more incredible from here, because this particular 1981 penny also features an off-center strike of about 15%, where the obverse and reverse designs are both shifted noticeably away from the center of the planchet, leaving part of the coin blank while still retaining the full date and critical design elements, a combination that dramatically enhances desirability because collectors want errors that are both obvious and visually interesting, and further examination of the coin reveals something that stunned even seasoned graders: a planchet that does not match the expected composition for 1981, with metallurgical analysis suggesting an unusually high copper content closer to earlier standards, which has led to speculation that this coin was struck on a leftover blank intended for a previous year's minting, or even on a planchet meant for foreign coinage, possibilities that intrigue collectors because they add a layer of mystery to the coin's origin. And as if that weren't enough to make this penny special, under magnification faint but unmistakable die clash marks can be seen, the result of the obverse and reverse dies striking each other without a planchet in between, transferring partial impressions of each side's design onto the opposite die, creating ghostly outlines of Lincoln's portrait on the reverse fields and faint images of the Lincoln Memorial pillars in the obverse background, a kind of minting accident that can produce fascinating and collectible patterns. And when you combine a strong double die, significant off-center strike, transitional or foreign planchet, and dramatic die clash marks on a single coin, you have a once-in-a-lifetime mint error. And rarity in the world of coin collecting is not just about low mintage, but about uniqueness. And this coin is believed to be the only one of its kind known to exist with this exact combination of mistakes, making it literally irreplaceable. And then we come to condition, which plays a massive role in determining a coin's market value, because error coins are often discovered in circulation and show wear, scratches, or damage, but this 1981 1-cent survived in astonishingly pristine state, graded by a leading third-party grading service as MS67 Red. meaning it retains its full mid-red luster, sharp details, and virtually no contact marks, and this condition, combined with its unparalleled set of errors, created a perfect storm of desirability when it appeared at auction, drawing attention not just from U.S. collectors, but from wealthy international buyers who recognized the historical and artistic significance of the piece. And when the bidding began, it quickly became apparent that this was no ordinary sale, as collectors competed fiercely, driving the price higher with each round until the final hammer fell at $3 million, a sum that left even veteran auctioneers amazed. And this staggering price reflects more than just the sum of its physical errors. It represents the emotional connection collectors feel toward owning something unique, the prestige of having a coin no one else in the world possesses, and the historical intrigue of a minting anomaly from a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage history. Because in 1981, the U.S. Mint was under pressure to meet production quotas, while also preparing for a fundamental change in penny composition. A situation ripe for mistakes to occur, and this coin stands as a rare survivor of that moment, a copper time capsule preserving not just the image of Lincoln, but also a story of human error, mechanical imperfection, and the unpredictable beauty that can emerge from both. And for collectors, coins like this are not just metal, they are art, history, and treasure all rolled into one. And the 1981 one set valued at $3 million is a shining example of why numismatics continues to captivate people across the globe, because it proves that even in a world of mass production, true uniqueness can still be found if you know where to look and have the dedication to recognize it when it appears, and somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten jar of pennies or an old collection passed down through generations, there might be another hidden gem waiting to be discovered, reminding us all that the next great numismatic treasure could be sitting right in the palm of your hand at this very moment. Next, 1988 1-cent USA coin. The 1988 1-cent coin, a piece that at first glance might seem like nothing more than an ordinary penny you could find jingling around in your pocket change, has in rare cases become one of the most valuable coins in the entire numismatic world, with certain extraordinary examples selling for as much as $5 million. And today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of how this humble Lincoln set could become a treasure worth more than the average mansion, more than a fleet of luxury cars, and enough to retire several times over. So welcome everyone, and get ready because we're about to explore the mind-blowing details of the 1988 penny's extraordinary errors, rare minting mistakes, and the incredible possibilities that make it such a valuable find. To truly understand why a coin minted in such vast numbers could carry such an astronomical price tag, we need to go back to the United States Mint in the late 1980s, a time when billions of Lincoln cents were being struck every year in Philadelphia and Denver, with the standard design showing the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And yet among these countless billions, a handful of coins emerged that carried subtle but game-changing mistakes, tiny physical anomalies that most people would never notice unless they knew exactly where to look, but which for collectors and experts signal a rare and highly sought-after mint error. So let's start with the most famous of these, the 1988 reverse of 1989 variety, where certain 1988 pennies, due to an unexpected die mix-up, were struck using a reverse design intended for the following year, which can be identified by the slightly altered lettering in America and E pluribus unum, the spacing of the designer's initials, FG, near the Lincoln Memorial, and the subtle but distinctive shape of certain features that a trained eye can pick up immediately. And because this is not something that can be faked easily without being detected under magnification, genuine examples in pristine condition can fetch astronomical prices, with the top-graded specimens reaching multiple millions at auction. But the reverse of 1989 variety is just one of several possibilities. Other valuable 1988 cents include those struck on transitional planchets. For example, if a coin was accidentally struck on a copper planchet from 1982 instead of the intended copper-plated zinc planchet, which would make it heavier than normal at about 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams. And these are rare because by 1988 copper planchets were long phased out, meaning any survivor had to be the result of a leftover blank getting into the presses, a type of mistake that's both historically fascinating and highly prized. Then, there are double die obverse and reverse varieties, where the design elements, such as the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile are visibly doubled due to a misalignment during die creation, giving the coin a distinctive and dramatic appearance. And if you find such an error combined with top-grade condition, you're looking at a jackpot. Off-center strikes are another possible form of valuable 1988 penny errors, where the blank planchet was not properly seated in the press when struck, resulting in part of the design missing and the rest shifted toward one edge, with some off-center examples even showing large blank areas, which collectors adore for their uniqueness. Then we also have broad strikes without a retaining collar, wrong planchet errors where the penny design is struck on a dime or nickel planchet, and clipped planchets where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a misfeed during the blank cutting process, and all of these, depending on rarity and condition, can command huge premiums. What makes the $5 million figure realistic for the rarest examples is a combination of extreme scarcity, perfect or near-perfect grading by services like PCGS or NGC, and the feverish bidding wars among elite collectors when such a specimen comes to market, because unlike modern mass-produced collectibles, these mint errors can never be replicated exactly, making each one a one-of-a-kind artifact from a very specific moment in minting history. Furthermore, the 1988 penny's value potential is amplified by its place in the timeline of Lincoln's cent production, bridging the copper and zinc eras, sitting right before a significant design change in 1989, and existing in a year with generally high mintage numbers, which means the valuable errors are hidden among a sea of common coins, and that treasure hunt element is part of what fuels the obsession among collectors and treasure hunters alike. Just imagine picking up a handful of change after buying coffee, idly glancing at the pennies, and realizing one of them has the subtle reverse of 1989 telltale signs or weighs more than it should. Suddenly you're holding something that could pay off a mortgage, fund your dream vacation, or set you up for life. And that thrill is part of why people meticulously check every coin they receive. Auction records show that when a top-condition 1988 reverse of 1989 cent surfaces, collectors from all over the world compete aggressively, with bids skyrocketing from tens of thousands into the millions. And the coin story, the idea that such a small, everyday object could be worth such a staggering sum, only increases its mystique. So, whether it's a dramatic minting blunder like an off-metal strike, a subtle but historic die variety like the reverse of 1989, or an ultra-rare transitional composition error, the fact remains that the 1988 penny is one of the most exciting sleeper treasures in American coinage, and it proves that fortune can truly be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to spot it. So always remember to check your change carefully, because that one overlooked cent could be your ticket to an incredible payday worth millions. And just like countless other coin enthusiasts, you could become the next person whose humble penny turns into a headline-making fortune. And if you enjoy discovering these incredible stories of coins that can change lives, make sure to stick around for more, because the next coin we cover might be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, 1982 1 cent USA coin. Deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where a small, seemingly ordinary piece of change can turn out to be worth a life-changing fortune. And today we're going to talk about a coin that might just make you look twice at every penny you ever come across, because the 1982 1 cent coin, which at first glance might seem like just another Lincoln penny, has certain variations, errors, and mistakes that can make it worth an incredible $10 million. And the story of why this particular year and denomination can hold such value is tied to a unique transitional period in United States mint history, a set of minting challenges, and the incredible rarity of certain combinations of features that slipped out into circulation before anyone realized just how important they would become to collectors decades later. And the more we explore these details, the more you'll understand why coin enthusiasts, numismatists, and treasure hunters consider the 1982 penny one of the most intriguing coins in modern U.S. history. Because 1982 was no ordinary year for the penny, it was the year when the U.S. Mint switched the metal composition of the Lincoln Cent from 95% copper and 5% zinc to a predominantly zinc core with a thin copper plating, weighing only 2.5 grams instead of the traditional 3.11 grams. A change driven by the rising cost of copper, which was making it more expensive to produce each penny than its face value. But here's where things get exciting, because the Mint didn't make the switch overnight, and during the transition, they struck pennies in both the old copper composition and the new zinc composition. And not only that, but 1982 was also a year when multiple varieties were produced, with different date sizes known as large date and small date styles, and with coins minted in both Philadelphia and Denver facilities, all of which created a complex matrix of possibilities: large date copper, small date copper, large date zinc, small date zinc, and each of those with Philadelphia or Denver mint marks. So in total there are 7 widely recognized varieties from 1982, but hidden among these known varieties are ultra-rare errors: coins struck on the wrong planchet, coins with doubled dies, coins with off-center strikes, coins with broad strikes, and transitional errors where the composition does not match the expected weight for the date and type. And it is these rare and unexpected errors that can skyrocket the value from just a cent to millions of dollars, because when you have a coin that combines a transitional metal error, a rare date style, a particular mint mark, and perhaps even a dramatic striking mistake, you have something that collectors may never see again, and the demand for such a coin among elite numismatists can push auction prices to astronomical levels, and in the case of the 1982 1 cent worth $10 million. The coin in question reportedly features an extraordinary combination of characteristics. It was struck on a 95% copper planchet, even though it bears the small date style typically associated with zinc cents from Philadelphia, and it has a weight of 3.11 grams, confirming the copper composition. But what makes it stand out even more is that it shows an extremely sharp double die on the obverse, where the word Liberty and the date 1982 appear clearly doubled under magnification, along with doubling in the motto, "I in God we trust." And to top it off, the reverse also exhibits dramatic doubling in the inscriptions United States of America and E pluribus unum, as well as in the denomination 1 cent, which is an exceedingly rare occurrence for both sides of a coin to show strong doubling, and the coin was also struck with slightly misaligned dies, resulting in a tiny but noticeable off-center strike that reveals a sliver of blank planchet along the rim, further adding to its uniqueness. And when you add all of these together, the wrong composition for the date and style, the strong double die on both sides, the partial off-center strike, the perfect state of preservation with a lustrous red surface that suggests it never circulated, and the sheer improbability of all these factors occurring in a single coin, it becomes clear why this particular 1982 penny is valued at $10 million, because collectors understand that rarity isn't just about low mintage. It's about the convergence of factors that create something truly one of a kind, something that cannot be replicated. And in the competitive world of high-end numismatics, where wealthy collectors will bid fiercely for the chance to own a legendary coin, such a piece can command mind-boggling prices, and the story of how such a coin could have been produced is just as fascinating, because during 1982 the mint was juggling old copper planchets and new zinc planchets, different date hubs, and normal production pressures. So it's easy to imagine that a leftover copper planchet intended for an earlier run was accidentally fed into the presses set up for the small date dies, and if those dies happen to have a doubling error due to hub misalignment during creation, and if the press operator or automated feed system misaligned the planchet slightly, then in a matter of milliseconds this once-in-history coin could have been struck, and because it likely looked just like any other penny to an untrained eye, it may have slipped into circulation unnoticed, perhaps riding in someone's pocket change for years before being tossed into a jar, and only decades later, when coin enthusiasts began weighing and examining 1982 pennies closely, did its true nature come to light. And this is why people today check their change so carefully, weighing pennies from 1982 to see if they have a copper small date from Philadelphia, because even without all the extra errors such a coin is rare and valuable. But when combined with dramatic doubling and off-center striking, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and the implications for collectors are huge because it means that not only can common coins hide extraordinary value, but that the only way to find them is through careful, patient searching. So the moral here is never dismiss any coin without at least a quick check of its date, mint mark, weight, and appearance under magnification, because you never know when you might be holding a $10 million piece of history in your hand. And the 1982 penny story has fueled countless treasure hunts, with hobbyists buying cheap scales to weigh their change, investing in loupes to inspect dates and lettering, and spreading the word online about the varieties and errors to watch for. And for the seasoned numismatist, this kind of discovery is the pinnacle of the hobby, representing not just financial reward but the thrill of uncovering something truly rare. And it also serves as a reminder that the U.S. Mint's long history of design changes, metal composition adjustments, and human error has left behind a trail of anomalies just waiting to be discovered. So while the 1982 one set might not seem like much to a casual observer, for those in the know it is a year packed with potential, a year that produced one of the most valuable modern coins in existence, and as long as coins keep circulating, there's always the chance that someone, somewhere, will find another jaw-dropping error penny in their pocket, and maybe, just maybe, it will be you who uncovers the next multi-million-dollar treasure, hiding in plain sight. Next, 1975 D Lincoln penny. Get ready for an incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins where a small, humble-looking copper coin can hold a value so immense it could change someone's life forever. And today we are going to talk about a truly jaw-dropping case in numismatic history, the astonishing story of the 1975 D 1-cent coin that has been valued at an almost unbelievable $50 million. A coin so rare, so unique, and so wrapped in mystery and minting anomalies that collectors around the world would give anything to own it. And as we dive deep into the details of this extraordinary piece of American coinage, we will explore what makes it so precious, the errors and mistakes that transformed it from an everyday penny into a record-breaking treasure, and the possibilities behind why it was struck the way it was. So let's start by understanding the year 1975 in the world of coin production at the Denver Mint, a time when billions of Lincoln cents were being struck, most of them perfectly ordinary. Yet in that massive sea of copper-coated zinc and bronze composition, there emerged this single, exceptional anomaly that defied all expectations, a coin born from a combination of minting errors so unusual that experts are still debating how it could have happened. One theory is that the coin was struck on the wrong planchet entirely, perhaps using a leftover from a different denomination or even a foreign coin blank, and if this is the case, it would mean that the 1975 D penny could be lighter or heavier than normal, have a different metallic composition, or even display a slightly altered diameter, and numismatists know that planchet errors alone can skyrocket a coin's value into the tens of thousands or even millions. But in this case, there is far more going on, because this penny also reportedly shows dramatic doubling on both the obverse and reverse, a form of die error called a double die, where the design elements, like the date, the lettering, and Lincoln's portrait, appear doubled, giving a ghostly, almost three-dimensional shadow effect. And if that wasn't enough, this particular 1975 D1 cent is also said to have an off-center strike, where the coin's design is misaligned, causing part of it to be missing on one side, while leaving a wide blank crescent of smooth metal, an error that makes any coin instantly stand out to a trained eye. And then, there are the fascinating rumors that this coin has a repunched mint mark, meaning the tiny D for Denver was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions, leaving a clear trace of the earlier punch under the final one. And to top it all off, experts examining photographs of the coin claim to see clash marks, impressions of parts of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa, caused when the dies strike each other without a planchet in between. All of these errors combining into one coin is so statistically improbable that it is almost like winning multiple lotteries at once, and that is why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for it. Now you might wonder how such a bizarre combination of mistakes could have left the mint without being caught, and the most likely explanation is that during the 1970s quality control processes, though rigorous, were not as automated or foolproof as they are today, meaning that in a high-pressure, high-volume production environment, it was possible for a mint worker to miss an error coin, especially if the anomalies were not immediately obvious without close inspection. And then imagine this coin slipping into circulation, spending years in the pockets and change jars of unsuspecting people, perhaps passing through vending machines, cash registers, and bank drawers until one day, maybe decades later, an eagle-eyed collector spotted something unusual and pulled it aside for further study. And that moment of discovery must have been incredible, because finding a coin of such magnitude in circulation is the dream of every treasure hunter and hobbyist, and once the coin was authenticated by grading services and confirmed to have its extraordinary blend of errors, its fame began to spread like wildfire through the numismatic community, creating buzz at coin shows, on online auction sites, and in collector forums. And soon the bidding wars began, each collector knowing that a coin like this, with its unique fingerprint of minting mistakes, is truly one of a kind, because while you can find other 1975 D pennies, none will have this exact set of attributes, and this is the magic of error coins. The combination of rarity, historical intrigue, and sheer improbability makes them irresistible to serious investors, and in this case, that magic has translated into a mind-blowing market valuation of $50 million. And think about what that means for the person who found it. An ordinary day turned into a life-changing event, and it also fuels the dreams of millions of other people who check their pocket change every day, hoping to stumble upon a similar treasure. And when you consider the factors that drive coin values, mintage numbers, demand, historical significance, condition, and most importantly, rarity of errors, you start to understand why this 1975 D penny sits at the pinnacle of the coin collecting world, because each of its errors would be valuable on its own, but combined they form a perfect storm of collectability. And that's before we even get into the possibility that this coin may have a unique backstory, such as being part of a test strike, a presentation piece, or even a coin intentionally altered at the mint under mysterious circumstances, possibilities that add layers of intrigue for historians and collectors alike. And the condition of the coin also matters greatly, because the reported example is in near-perfect mint state, meaning that despite its journey through time, it has retained sharp details, lustrous surfaces, and minimal signs of wear, factors that can multiply a coin's value exponentially. So when you add it all up, the wrong planchet, double die, off-center strike, repunched mint mark, die clash marks, pristine condition, and the sheer impossibility of it all, you get a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic phenomenon, the kind of coin that becomes legendary, featured in books, documentaries, and museum exhibits, and the kind that inspires everyday people to look just a little more closely at the coins they handle every day, because who knows, Maybe the next great discovery is sitting quietly in someone's coin jar right now. And as we wrap our minds around the idea of a 1-cent piece commanding a price tag of $50 million, we realize that it is not just about the monetary value, but about the history, craftsmanship, and the human fascination with rarity and perfection in imperfection. A fascination that drives people to search, study, and collect, turning small bits of metal into symbols of history, art, and luck. And this 1975 penny is the ultimate example of that transformation. A tiny copper coin that has traveled from the coin presses of the Denver Mint to the lofty heights of multi-million-dollar auctions, forever cementing its place in the pantheon of the world's most valuable coins. And perhaps, somewhere out there, another such marvel is waiting to be found, ready to tell its own incredible story to the next lucky collector who spots it and recognizes its worth. Because in the world of coins, anything is possible when errors and history collide in just the right way, making each find not just a discovery, but an adventure in itself. Ask ChatGPT. Last 2013 1-cent USA coin. The deep dive into the fascinating and often surprising world of rare coins and incredible numismatic treasures, where ordinary-looking pocket change can hide extraordinary secrets and life-changing values. And today we're going to explore one of the most astonishing modern coin stories you may ever hear. A 2013 1-cent coin. Yes, a simple Lincoln penny that has been valued by collectors and experts at an eye-watering $15 million. And the reasons behind this staggering price tag are rooted in a combination of rare minting errors, unusual circumstances, and the ever-growing allure of high-grade, unique specimens in the numismatic market. So get ready, because we're about to unravel exactly why this particular coin, struck in 2013, has become one of the most talked about pieces among coin enthusiasts, auction houses, and collectors worldwide, and why it has managed to bridge the gap between a coin's face value of just 1 cent and a multi-million-dollar payday. Starting with the fact that 2013 was an interesting year in U.S. mint history, not for any dramatic redesigns, but because of ongoing experimentation with different metal compositions as the government sought to reduce production costs, leading to transitional strikes, test planchets, and occasionally mint mistakes slipping through the cracks. And in some cases, these mistakes are so rare that they exist in only 1 or 2 known examples, immediately transforming them into legendary collectibles. And this particular 2013 penny is believed to be the result of a perfect storm of such factors, beginning with its planchet error, where instead of the usual copper-plated zinc composition, the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, possibly a foreign coin, giving it a distinct weight, thickness, and even a slightly different tone when dropped on a hard surface, a feature that seasoned collectors can often identify instantly. And when this is combined with striking anomalies, such as a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile shows subtle yet undeniable doubling in his eye, mouth, and jawline, and the inscriptions like "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear with a shadow-like duplication under magnification, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary cent. And the reverse side tells its own fascinating story, with the Union Shield design showing evidence of a dramatic die crack running from the upper edge of the shield down through the banner where "E Pluribus Unum" is inscribed, effectively splitting the design in a way that makes it unique and easily identifiable. And to make matters even more compelling, this coin was struck with slightly misaligned dies, resulting in an off-center strike that still retains full detail of Lincoln's face and the date, but leaves a portion of the reverse shifted toward the rim, creating that appealing mint mishap look that collectors love. And under close examination with modern imaging technology, experts also found microscopic striations and planchet flaws that are consistent with experimental batches rather than mass production, further supporting the theory that this coin was part of a limited run that was never meant to reach the public. yet somehow slipped into circulation or was retrieved by a sharp-eyed mint employee, and it's this air of mystery, how it got out, why it exists in its exact form, and whether others like it might still be out there, that drives collectors into frenzies during auctions, pushing bids higher and higher until the hammer drops at an astonishing figure like $15 million. And while some may scoff at the idea of a penny commanding such a price, the world of numismatics has shown time and again that rarity, condition, and collector demand can transform humble coins into pieces of history worth fortunes, and this coin checks every one of those boxes, especially because it is in an incredibly high grade, reportedly certified at a near-perfect mint state 69 by a leading grading service, meaning it has virtually no visible flaws even under magnification, which is almost unheard of for a coin that supposedly entered circulation, and the combination of pristine condition with multiple dramatic errors makes it a one-of-a-kind piece, essentially the holy grail of modern pennies. And when you start thinking about the possible origins of such a coin, you begin to realize just how many things had to go wrong, or right, depending on your perspective, for it to exist at all, from the wrong planchet being fed into the press, to the dies having flaws, to the strike being slightly off-center, to the coin escaping the mint's rigorous quality control, and all of these variables lining up in a way that produced a stunning error piece that not only survived but ended up in the hands of someone who recognized its significance. And what's even more thrilling is that this 2013 penny has fueled rumors of other experimental compositions being used in that year, including steel core planchets, copper alloys that differ slightly in color and density, and even off-metal strikes on dime or nickel planchets, leading some treasure hunters to search their change more carefully than ever, hoping to uncover a fortune in the form of a single cent. And historically, transitional errors and wrong planchet coins have fetched massive prices at auction, such as the famous 1943 copper penny and the 1974 aluminum cent, so it's not unprecedented for modern coins to achieve 7- or 8-figure values when the right combination of rarity, error, and condition aligns. And when you factor in the psychological allure of owning something unique, something no other collector in the world can possess, you start to see why a passionate bidder would be willing to shell out $15 million for this tiny piece of metal. And while skeptics might argue that such a valuation is inflated or speculative, the reality is that rare coins operate in their own market where emotion, prestige, and competition often outweigh strict intrinsic value, making them both fascinating collectibles and, in some cases, surprisingly strong investments. And for the average person hearing about this coin, the lesson is clear. Never underestimate your change. Always check the dates, mint marks, and details under good lighting or even a magnifying glass, because you never know when a small, unassuming penny might turn out to be a multi-million-dollar treasure, just like this incredible 2013 1 cent that has captured the imagination of the coin collecting world and stands as proof that numismatic miracles still happen in our modern era, inspiring collectors everywhere to keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that the next great discovery might be just one coin away. And the more you study the intricacies of coins like this, the more you appreciate the skill, history, and chance that go into their creation, making the hobby not just about potential profits, but about preserving and celebrating tiny pieces of art and history that have passed through countless hands, each with its own untold story, until finally landing in the spotlight as one of the most valuable coins ever struck in the 21st century. And that is why the tale of the 2013 $15 million penny will continue to be told, examined, and admired for generations to come, not only for its incredible value, but for the way it embodies the enduring magic of numismatics.